Greetings and welcome back to room 303 in Freshman English, and we now turn in our hymnals to page 1103. We now are going to introduce ourselves to what your textbook calls the challenge. Okay, so write that one down. That's the heading of this section, the challenge. Now, what exactly is this challenge? 3 parts. Let's write it down. 1. Penelope has a serious problem. Let's outline. The wife of Odysseus. Penelope has a serious problem. A, her man is probably dead. Been gone for 20 years fighting at the walls of Troy, and after the walls of Troy fell, for 10 years he's been gone, so she's got no guy. 2, she's got a bunch of men who have shown up at her house, are eating all of her food, are sleeping with her servants, forcing those servants to sleep by and large, primarily with those men. And they are reporting, we will not leave until you choose one of us as your husband to become the new king of Ithaca. By the way, I'm sometimes asked, I don't get it. Telemachus is old enough now. Why can't Telemachus just become the new king of Ithaca? Because his ma's still alive. If his mother was not alive, Telemachus could easily inherit the throne and become the king of Ithaca. But because his mother is alive, then she has to marry, which is exactly what Odysseus told her to do when he left. He told her when he left in the Odyssey, if I don't come back by the time our little infant boy Telemachus has facial hair, in other words, he's grown up, then go ahead and marry another man. Penelope hasn't wanted to do it. She has tried to put this thing off. Remember her little weaving and unweaving by night and all of that. But finally she's been caught. And so she now has to decide which one of these scumbags she's going to marry and take for a husband. Number 3, Penelope's problem. These suitors really dislike her boy, Telemachus. And it's pretty clear they'd like to kill him. As a matter of fact, they have plotted to kill him. And if Telemachus didn't have some help from Athena, early on, they would have killed him. Okay? Why was Telemachus leaving in the first place? He wanted evidence his father was dead. Not that his father was alive. Telemachus was pretty much convinced, along with his mother Penelope, that Odysseus is probably dead. I just have to find that out, right? So that we can get on with life. In other words, in some ways, let's put it in our notes, Penelope's life has been on hold. 10 years while her man was fighting at the walls of Troy, another 10 years after Troy fell, and why isn't he coming home? Agamemnon came home. He got jacked after the fact by Clytemnestra, but he did come home. Menelaus came home, right? But where is Odysseus, and why hasn't he come home? Number 2, Penelope will decide that she is going to offer a challenge to these suitors. In other words, it's simply this. I will only marry a man who is as strong as my old husband Odysseus was. Well, how are you going to prove that? Because Odysseus is dead and gone. Answer. Odysseus had a favorite bow. Now, for the bow hunters in the house who love to hunt, especially with a compound bow, right? You are talking about a different weapon. That is a modern weapon. For those of you who know anything about a recurve bow, then you know about the kind of weapon that we're speaking of. It is literally a piece of wood. It's notched at both ends. You have to bend this piece of wood. You have to notch both ends. Literally, to bend the bow is serious strength. Okay? So that's going to be the first project. She pulls out this ancient weapon of Odysseus, and she says, I'll only marry the guy who can string this bow. But wait. I feel like I'm selling Gidgee knives up here. There's more. It's not just stringing a bow. You then have to shoot through a bunch of axe heads. Look at your picture on 1102. You got to shoot through a bunch of axe heads. There's a little tiny hole in between the wood of the axe and the blade of the axe. She lines them up and she says, whoever can shoot through all of those, that's the guy I'm going to marry. Of course, the obvious question is, well, what happens when none of them can even string the bow? Forget about shooting through the axe heads. String the bow, right? Okay, the challenge will be, and each one of them will try, and when they all can't do it, well, let's do the reading. I'm with you now on page 1103. Let's just go to work with the reading now, okay? Then we'll come back. It's not a long reading, but I think we can make a couple observations.
The challenge. Pressed by the suitors to choose a husband from among them, Penelope says she will marry whoever can string Odysseus's bow and shoot an arrow through 12 axe-handle sockets. The suitors try and fail. Still in disguise, Odysseus asks for a turn and gets it. And Odysseus took his time, turning the bow, tapping it, every inch, for borings that termites might have made while the master of the weapon was abroad. The suitors were now watching him, and some jested among themselves. A bow lover, dealer in old bows. Maybe he has one like it at home, or has an itch to make one for himself. See how he handles it, the sly old buzzard. And one disdainful suitor added this: may his fortune grow an inch for every inch he bends it. But the man skilled in all ways of contending, satisfied by the great bow's look and heft, like a musician, like a harper, when with quiet hand upon his instrument he draws between his thumb and forefinger a sweet new string upon a peg. So effortlessly Odysseus in one motion strung the bow, then slid his right hand down the cord and plucked it, so the taut gut vibrating hummed and sang a swallow's note. In the hushed hall it smote the suitors, and all their faces changed. Then Zeus thundered overhead, one loud crack for a sign. And Odysseus laughed within him that the son of crooked-minded Cronus had flung that omen down. He picked one ready arrow from his table where it lay bare. The rest were waiting still in the quiver for the young man's turn to come. He knocked it, let it rest across the hand grip, and drew the string and grooved butt of the arrow, aiming from where he sat upon the stool. Now flashed arrow from twanging bow clean as a whistle through every socket ring, and grazed not one to thud with heavy brazen head beyond. Then, quietly, Odysseus said, Telemachus, the stranger you welcomed in your hall has not disgraced you. I did not miss, neither did I take all day stringing the bow. My hand and eye are sound, not so contemptible as the young men say. The hour has come to cook their lordships' mutton, supper by daylight. Other amusements later, with song and harping that adorn a feast. He dropped his eyes and nodded. And the Prince Telemachus, true son of King Odysseus, belted his sword on, clapped hand to his spear, and with a clink and glitter of keen bronze stood by his chair in the forefront near his father.
All right, so let's do a real quick annotation over this. Your textbook company, can I say this out loud? Your textbook company has a serious challenge. This scene is obviously the most iconic scene in all of the Odyssey. What do I mean by iconic? If you're going to make a movie of the Odyssey, this is the scene of all scenes, where that old man is sitting there at the back of the room. He's sitting so that he can look right down all 12 of those axe heads. Every one of these men, bad guys, have tried to string this bow, cannot even bend the bow to string it. And then they say, well, I guess it's over. And Telemachus says, no, I have to try to string the bow. You're a kid. He tries, he can't do it. All of them go, whew, I'm glad he couldn't do it. Then, oh well, I guess Penelope's got to come up with a new plan. Telemachus, what about the old man in the back? That old guy, he could barely even sit up. Everybody in the room, that's what Penelope said is the rule. Everybody gets a shot. We got to at least give him a shot. Notice the guys start taunting him. Right? Oh, ha, ha, ha. You must, because when that bow, we're told that with every step, Telemachus bringing that bow to Odysseus, Athena just makes him more and more outraged as he sees his possession being brought to him. That bow is a famous bow, right? In Homer, weapons are really important. When you read the Iliad and Odyssey actually with me as seniors, you'll pick up on this, that weapons even sometimes get names and they have histories unto themselves and all of that kind of stuff, right? Of course, in your senior year, we'll also study a famous sword called Excalibur, which is King Arthur's famous sword. These swords, these weapons have special kinds of importance. And when that bow hits his hand, all those memories come back. I mean, just look at, even in your cutting, notice on page 1103, we're told that the minute he touches the bow, all these memories come back, right? It's like any hunter who has a history with any weapon that has, for example, had some kind of experience, and then the minute that you hold that weapon, you remember, of course, all the memories that went with it. Same gig going on here. Notice they taunt him. Oh, because he's looking at the bow. He wants to make sure the bow is sound. It's been properly tended, if you will. Oh, he's a dealer in old bows, right? Or on page 1104, oh, maybe he has one like it at home. Jot down at 2b what's ironic about that, right? What's ironic about one of them going, oh, maybe he has a bow that looks just like that at home. Yeah, oh yeah, he does have one that looks like that at home, and it's called You're About to Find Out, right? Look at the next one, right? Maybe he has an itch to make one for himself. See how he handles it, the sly old buzzard. And then the next one, may his fortune grow an inch. For every inch, he bends it. Pure irony. Because, of course, sitting down, he will string that bow by bending that wood in one movement. And the minute he has strung that bow, and notice all the musical language associated with it, he flicks that bow, and it sounds a certain sound. And of course, collectively, although it's not mentioned, you can imagine it. This is the dramatic element, right, of this scene. You can imagine if you're making a film of this, you would cut away quickly to show what? Well, the faces of the bad guys. We're told that they just turn pale as they collectively go, uh-oh, who is this old man? And how come he's able to do this? But wait, he's not done. He then shoots that arrow through 12 axe heads and does not graze a single one of the axe head blades, leaving obviously everybody to go, whoa, 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 this old man that we threw a stool at, it's not in your reading, but they throw pieces of meat at him, like they're eating, bone, and they throw it at the old man. Here, you can have a little bit more to eat, right? Of course, this is a bone from an animal that was Odysseus's that they had slaughtered and eaten, right? In other words, Athena's just making him more and more mad. As soon as he shoots it through, notice, on to page 1104, in the hushed hall, it smote the suitors and all their faces changed, and then Zeus thunders overhead with one loud crack of thunder for a sign. And Odysseus, we're told, laughs to himself to think, oh, Zeus is watching. This ought to be interesting. Notice we're told as well that he quietly then will say to Telemachus, it's time, right? And of course, everybody's is sitting there, they're like, whoa, 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 what is going on? What is going on? A powerfully dramatic moment for Odysseus when he nods. The hour has come to cook. What? Jot down in your notes. What's up with that? The hour. He says to his boy, the hour has come to cook. Right? Yeah, that is to say, it's time to jack somebody up. We're going to jack a whole lot of suitors up. Of course, Telemachus has already removed all their weapons. Right? So they're defenseless, and now Odysseus and his boy Telemachus are going to jack all these guys. Okay, let's jump to 2a really quickly with messages. Well, obviously one major message here is, and we've seen this all the way through the Odyssey, things are not always what they appear. An old man doesn't necessarily mean that he's weak, right? Okay, and this old man is a very particularly special old man. Let's put another major message here, and that is the power of music, right? The power of a tune. The power of a song. This, of course, is a poem that is a song. And notice we're emphasizing the tonal quality here. At 2b, well, what is the primary symbol here? Jot down, what's the symbol of the bow? As it's coming back to Odysseus, and he sees it coming. All the memories that it elicits, right? Of course, it's going to be the weapon of destruction as well. It's going to be the proof that Odysseus is home, because only Odysseus can string this bow. Not even Telemachus can string this bow. It's Odysseus' bow, and only Odysseus can string this bow. What's ironic about this passage? Well, some of you will say that's self-evident. Maybe he has a bow like that back home and he's remembering it. Oh yeah, you got that right. Or it's time to cook. What? Cook? What, are we going to go in the kitchen and make a meal? No. We're speaking obviously metaphorically here, aren't we? Figuratively, aren't we? That is to say, cooking equals killing, equals revenge. This is a text of revenge, no question about it. Odysseus has waited a long time to get home, and when he finally gets home and he discovers all these bad guys, there will be an element of revenge here, no question about it. At 3A, okay, well, I mean, obviously this is an easy one for the gamers in the house. What is your favorite moment in any game you play where something similar like this is happening? Why is it so many games? See, I've had students that go, I never realized this. Why is it so many games begin with choose your weapon? Like, what is up with that? You got to choose your weapon. What is that about? It's the Odyssey. The idea that you are your weapon. You are the weapon you choose. And notice in this case, for Odysseus, it's a famous bow. Where, earlier in his life, we're told the other part of the Odyssey, he actually was on a very famous hunt and he almost died. He almost died. And in fact, he was wounded in his leg and he has a scar there, right? And he actually is discovered by the old nurse who gives him a bath, and she sees that scar and she recognizes it's Odysseus. He is, of course, in disguise. And she recognizes it's Odysseus, and we're told he grabs her by the throat and he says, if you say a word, I'll kill you. And she's like, no, 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 I'm really happy that you're back because I hate these scumbag suitors as much as you do. That weapon, right? So what are the texts for you about payback and revenge? A lot of gaming is built around this idea, right? You got to have the bad guy, in this case the bad guys, and you've got, of course, the hero who is going to come back to give payback in the form of revenge, right? Of course, at 3B, we got a number of questions here we can ask. Do you think it's fair that this is the way Odysseus comes home? Incognito, fooling all these guys, taking away their chance to defend themselves and then slaughtering them. Do you have a problem with this as his modus operandi? Right? How about this one? What's a time in your life when people teased you and they did not know something that you knew? And you could be like, I know something you don't know. Right? Maybe they made fun of you because they didn't think you could do something, right? Okay. We had a student once at our school who arrived, and he came to our school at the beginning of the year, and nobody here knew him. And he went out for the basketball team, and everyone kind of started laughing at him. He wasn't dressed very well. He didn't have new shoes on. He didn't have all the cool gear. And he was an unknown. And so some of the fellas on the team started making fun of him, first in the locker room and then came out. And in warm-ups, he dunked. And everybody went, oh. Right? They had no idea where he came from. He had come from another place, from another state, from another city, where to make a basketball team required serious athleticism. And his parents had moved against his will, and there he was. And in that moment, a whole lot of guys who would make fun of him had to eat crow. Later, when I was teaching him the Odyssey, he said, yeah, I know what that's like, when people make fun of you because they don't know who you are, and then all of a sudden you get to prove to them, yeah, maybe you miscalculated. That is to say, it's time to cook, right? All right, well, we'll come back and do a bit more of the Odyssey here together. Thank you.